Uh, I was asked this time to talk about the elections in the United States. So I live in Russia and I am Russian. So I got somehow a bit interested in the elections in the USA. And I thought, what use can be for me such an interest? Because, of course, United States may influence Russia, may influence my life, may influence the policy of our state, but I won't dwell upon it. I will discuss the question of how information about the elections in the United States can affect me personally. And so I'll start. I am an atheist, so I don't believe in, or I treat with very great respect the Christians, especially the Protestants, but personally I am an atheist. Why? One of the reasons is that in my life I have seen no miracles, not a single miracle. In the Gospels there are a lot of miracles which were performed by Jesus Christ. I won't enumerate them, but they are several. But I haven't seen them. But recently happened an event which very much resembled a miracle. This was an attempt of assassination on Donald Trump. So one bad guy tried to kill him with a rifle shot, but he missed because Donald Trump turned his head for a split second like that. And instead of shooting him through the head, the bullet just struck the upper part of his right ear. So Donald Trump himself thinks that it was the hand of God which saved his life. And to me, this looks like truth. It's an event which resembles most of all a miracle, which I could see in the internet with my own eyes. And this makes me think more seriously about Christianity. That's the first how you call it, influence on my personal life. The second, since I'm constantly looking or hearing the materials upon the elections in the United States, I listen to the English language. And if you see my films in the YouTube, you'll see that I'm constantly trying to compose songs in English. But to compose an English text to be in Russian, you have to have rhymes in your head. And this is very difficult because normally I speak Russian with Russians, so it must be Russian rhymes. But if I listen, and since I'm a pensioner, I'm a Zeks-pluser, like the Dutchmen say, and if I listen for hours English language, I start compose rhymes better and better with time. So I noticed that my skill in composing English songs increased, bettered. So this is the second moment which affects my life. And the third, Donald Trump, which I, by the way, very much respect, because after this attempt of assassination, he first lowered down, then he raised himself, clutched his fist, and shouted, "Fight, fight, fight." And this is a type of behavior which arouses respect, because he's a brave man, and I respect brave people. And he's not, maybe he's rude, maybe he's unpolite, but he's not stupid. He's quite a smart guy, Donald Trump. So I like him. I came to like Donald Trump and the Republican Party of the USA. So,
Great old party. Go.
great old party. And he chose his vice president, whose name is G.D. Vance. G.D. Vance. And this G.D. Vance, he wrote a book, Hillbilly Elegy, which describes his life in the Appalachian regions of the USA, a very poor regions. And normally the people there end in jail, young people, or in overdose of drugs. But he somehow was saved by his grandmother, and he didn't deal in drugs, but when he became a young lad, he went to army, to Iraq, in the Marines, in the Marine Corps, and then he got after he returned, he got very good education and started his own business, then started politics, and became vice president, being a hillbilly from the Appalachian regions. So this is a living example of a sales.
Who's hillbilly?
Hillbilly is a poor proletarian of the rural region in the United States. Sometimes they are called rednecks also. Rednecks means...
So music hillbilly out of this?
Yeah, music hillbilly is the music from Appalachian region. It's like Country Roads Take Me Home to the Place I Belong, John Denver. So, and I asked myself, why cannot I make myself self-made man like G.D. Vance? If he did it, why cannot I do it? And I have
Maybe you are already.
not yet.
You are well known.
No. Being in comparison with the Vice President of the United States, that's nothing. But I used to walk a lot in the woods gathering mushrooms. Why? Because there was time when I was young. I used to be in the ethnological expedition, and there I used to travel with Chukchis on foot, walking. And I couldn't walk as much as Chukchis. Who are Chukchis? Chukchis are like American Eskimos. And they are proud of the people who could travel long distances on foot. For instance, they boasted that some people from about whom there are legends, they could cross during a day 80 kilometers, for instance. So I was ashamed that I couldn't do walk like Chukchis. And much later in Moscow, I started to walk from Moscow to the other small town, which is called Sergeyev Posad, 74 kilometers. 74 kilometers. It took me 12 and half an hour. But now I am 71. I'm not 53, and my knee aches, so I cannot walk like before. But this is another example. I read once a book of a French mountaineer, alpinist, whose name is Maurice Herzog, and he wrote a book, Annapurna, and I read it in Russian, the translation, And he describes how he was mounting this, climbing this Annapurna, and he got mountain sickness and started to untie his rucksack. And in the process, his gloves slipped away, slipped downwards, and he was in the mountains on the very high altitude with bare hands. And he had to clutch while down, descending, clutch to the ropes and to the some other objects with his bare hands. And in the result, he lost flesh on both of his hands. That when he was only bones left, and he became invalid. But he survived. And what is his conclusion from this tragic experience of his life? Maurice Herzog wrote that in the life of every man, they can be his own Annapurna. You can have your own Annapurna, and I can have my own Annapurna. And now my knee aches, but I try to keep this volume of movement which I did when I was healthy. So it results that every other day I walk in the woods and try to gather mushrooms.
Can it be a miracle then?
No. When I was healthy, I didn't have habit to walk every other day for 7 hours. But this year, this month, once I walked, it's not good for the health, but I walked with a sore foot for 9.5 hours. And in the end, the last half an hour, I could compare myself with something between a camel in the desert and the famous Russian pilot who was after crash, he lost his legs. Mauricio. And he used to crawl for many hours on the snow. So I was, that was every single step was across pain with much effort. And what is the use of it? Here I trying to learn drums, to play drums. Like I may show the second time, like I play drums.
Можем пройти. До ударников. Пойдем.
So, and I want to be the best drummer, of course, like this J.D. Vance wanted to become a politician and became a vice president, and I want just to be the best drummer in the vicinity. Now I'm not paid for drumming because I am too clumsy like a drummer. But when I can force myself to walk for 8 hours, it's nothing for me to drum 3 hours daily with my right foot, and the best drum is played by right foot, but fortunately not by left foot, which sores me a bit. But another my Annapurna is to become the best drummer, and the rest of this video I want to devote, strangely enough, to the Dutch people, to the Netherlands. Why? Because this Vice President of the United States, Vance, he's a believer. He's a Protestant, and he believes in Jesus Christ. And I respect such people. But Americans often say that their founding fathers, they invented the perfect political system of counterbalancing of the political forces, and they were incented by the belief in God.
Maybe Romans.
No, by the belief in God. That's what Americans think. But they invented this system. They were not the first, because the first nation which invented democracy in the modern times were the Dutch. For instance, they were Americans who called themselves separatists. They lived in England and they wanted to practice religion how they want, but the government, the English government, wouldn't let them to do it. And Elizabeth the First was a bit mild on that, but the next king, King James the First, he started to persecute them. And Americans.
He was from Scotland.
Yeah, no, he was a bad guy.
Maybe he was Catholic.
He was a bad. He sympathized with Catholicism, but Americans think that these people, the separatists or the pilgrims on the ship Mayflower, they went from England to the United States, but this isn't so. They heard that there was a religious freedom in the Netherlands, and they first came to Netherlands and lived there for 12 years, and only after that they organized the expedition to the United States on the Mayflower. So it was in 1620 when they crossed the Atlantic. What was the Dutch doing in 1620? That's very interesting. They were ahead of the whole planet in the 17th century. Americans may be in the 20th century ahead of all the planet, or Elon Musk now is the richest man in the world and the most creative man in the whole planet, or on the whole planet. But in the 17th century, the Dutch were ahead of all the planet. Why? And here I must tell a few words about such thing which is called gibbing. Most people don't know what is gibbing. It is a way of salting herring with taking out. By the way, I wrote from Wikipedia. I wrote from Wikipedia and just write what is gibbing. Gibbing, it is the process of preparing salt herring or sauced herring, in which the gills and part of the gullet are removed from the fish, eliminating any bitter taste. The liver and pancreas are left in the fish, and during the salt curing process, because they release enzymes essential for flavor. And this process was invented in Netherlands between the years 1380 and 1386. What was the result? The Dutch started to supply with this sweet salt herring, mildly salt herring, half of Europe, and they became rich. And since they were under the government, under the rule of Spain, the Spaniards didn't like it very much, and they started war against the subjects. They started to suppress the Protestant faith, which was the first in Europe, not in the United States, and which was called Calvinism, and which promoted such inventions like gibbing. And so the Dutch started the war against Spaniards, which is called in the Dutch language 80-jarige oorlog, 80 years war, and they win this war. They started to control spices trade, and they become the richest nation on the planet Earth. And I'll finish this film with the detail that nowadays in Netherlands there is a company which is called ASML Holding, which is deciphered as Advanced Semiconductor Materials Lithography. And in this semiconductor microchips production, they are again ahead of all of the planet. So and this is a very important in the solving of the problem of artificial intelligence. And the nation which first will invent artificial intelligence again will be ahead of all of the planet. So I respect both Americans and the Dutch.